Time's 11:21 a.m. This begins media 2 on the record.
Hey, Justin.
Hey.
Let's pick up where we left off. Did you ever receive an official offer to join the government?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the form of that official offer?
A PDF document.
Okay. Who sent that to you?
I don't remember.
Okay. Was that sent to your personal email address?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember generally what the offer said? Strike that. Do you remember what kind of details were on that PDF?
Position, location of work, salary. Were effectively the things that stood out to me.
Okay, yeah. What was the position?
Senior advisor to Stephen Hikian,
Okay. What was the location of work?
GSA.
And what was the salary?
$150.
Okay. Were you ever paid anything beyond that 150 in relation to your work for Doge or GSA
No.
by anyone?
No.
Inside of government or outside of government?
Could you repeat the question again?
Were you ever paid anything on top of that $150,000 by anyone inside or outside of government in relation to your work with GSA?
No.
What about with respect to your work for Doge?
No.
Okay. And the start date was March 3rd, 2025. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You noted before that you interpreted your role to be to help Nate with whatever he was working on. Do you remember testifying to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that on the PDF that was sent to you?
My role was senior advisor to Stephen Hikian, who was the head of GSA.
Okay.
And Nate was an employee of GSA.
Okay. So, to understand the atmospherics, you understood your role to be with the GSA and your kind of mission at GSA to be to help Nate with whatever he was doing.
Objection.
Is that fair to say?
Not exclusively Nate, no.
Okay. So what else did you interpret your mission?
Stephen Hikian was my boss, and it was my understanding that Nate was working with Stephen, and I was just meant to start with Nate.
Okay. Who did you communicate with more, Nate or Stephen?
I sat very close to Stephen, but dialogue more so with Nate.
Okay. So, when did you meet Nate Kavanaugh?
March 3rd.
Was that in person?
Yes.
Okay. Were you communicating with him though before March 3rd?
To coordinate what to do the first day I showed up.
Okay. Do you remember when that conversation took place?
The week before, so late February.
Okay. You're no longer employed by the GSA, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Why'd you leave?
I just felt it was time.
What made you feel like it was time?
There was more opportunity for me elsewhere.
After 6 months of work for the GSA?
Yes, Stephen had been fired.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that affected your calculus and whether to stay at the GSA?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Had Nate already left government when you left government?
I think so.
Okay. Was there any other reason that you left GSA?
It was better for me opportunistically to leave. That was the crux of it.
Okay. But I'm just kind of asking for the atmosphere there.
Sure.
What makes you say that?
Well, Nate had left. He was a close friend at that point. And I felt my time was better served leaving GSA.
Okay. Do you feel like there was mission misalignment at the time that you decided to leave?
Misalignment, no. Anthony had also left. I was working with him.
Sorry.
Anthony Armstrong.
Anthony Armstrong. Okay. So a lot of the people that you were working with previously had left,
Yes.
and so you
Yeah.
decided it was time for you to leave as well.
Yes.
Okay. Were there culture changes associated with your leave?
Objection.
Like you said, most of the folks that I was working with had left.
Yeah. But I guess I'm asking, like, besides the people, was there a change in direction that you saw at Doge or GSA that you didn't agree with?
No.
Okay. So generally same mission, different people, and you
Yes.
wanted to leave on that basis?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about Doge versus GSA, because we've been talking about both of them. How do you interpret them to be different?
Objection.
GSA was where I worked. And Doge felt more like a club of folks with a different mission than traditional folks that were career employees.
Okay, how would you describe that different mission?
Find savings and optimization, implement technology, streamline processes.
So would it be fair to say that you were a member of the Doge team working within GSA?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. So tell me about this Doge team. Who else was on this Doge team?
Everyone that I had mentioned before, Josh, Nate, Ethan, Mike, Anthony, Stephen,
And when you say Stephen,
Ahikian.
okay. How did you gain an understanding of the mission of Doge, this Doge team or Doge club as you described it earlier?
I understood it as find the savings. Sorry, do you have
Sorry, yeah,
something to say?
Can you just let him finish his answer, though?
Sure, yeah.
I understood it as find the savings in the government that otherwise was being overlooked, implement technology to streamline processes so that the government can be more efficient, and look out for the direction of executive orders and make sure that they're implemented. It was really a broad mandate, and I was working with Nate.
Okay. And sorry, I think we kind of walked past each other there. I meant, how did you gain that understanding? Not what the understanding was. Did someone tell you that that was your mission?
Yeah, in the interviews.
Okay. What did they tell you?
Just that.
Okay.
Go in, find savings, optimize where you can, introduce technology, streamline processes.
Who told you that in interviews?
Anthony, Josh, Mike.
Anyone else?
Maybe Ryan.
So Ryan,
Ryan Leppert.
okay. Ryan interviewed you?
Yes.
Okay. This was before you joined on March 3rd?
Yes.
Okay. Were these conversations that you were having through which you gained an understanding for Doge's mission taking place in person?
The interviews, like I said, were on Signal.
The interviews were on Signal.
Yes.
Through photos. I don't really know how Signal works. Through tech, like phone calls through Signal?
Yes.
Okay. FaceTimes, is that possible on Signal?
I think so.
Okay. But were they phone calls without visual?
If I remember correctly, yeah.
Okay, got it.
There may have been some video, but I don't remember.
Who did you report to within the Doge team?
Josh, Steven.
And Nate?
Not as much as I viewed Josh and Steven.
Okay. So you kind of viewed them as your proper kind of bosses at Doge?
Yes.
Okay. And Nate was less of a boss in that respect?
Yes, more of the same as you would look to a colleague that's been on the job longer.
Okay. How often were you talking to Steve and Josh?
Two, 3 times a week.
Okay. And so would they have been aware of the kind of work you were doing for Doge and GSA?
Yes.
Okay. Were they giving you direction at Doge and GSA?
Not that I remember.
Okay. I mean, what kinds of things would you talk about when you touched base with them 2 or 3 times a week?
Contracts, grants.
Okay. Who did you understand to be the top people at Doge at the time of your employment?
Steven, Josh, Anthony. Yeah.
Okay. Elon Musk?
Yes. Although I had limited interaction with him.
Okay. But you interacted with him?
Only very briefly.
Okay. Tell me about that.
There was meetings in EEOB to just talk about initiatives and progress.
Okay. These were meetings with several people or just you and Elon Musk?
50 or 80 people. Yeah.
Okay. So pretty sizable meetings.
Yes.
Okay. And at these meetings, you said you would talk about progress. Is this progress as it relates to savings, grant terminations, things of that nature?
Yeah.
Okay.
Streamlining, adopting new tech.
Right.
Yeah, status updates of the Doge leads at some of the biggest agencies.
Okay. When you say Doge leads, you mean Doge team members detailed to different agencies?
Or onboarded through
Okay.
agencies that they were hired into.
Okay. So at these meetings, would you talk about, let's say, the work that you were doing at the National Labor Relations Board, for instance?
Our team, Not as much.
Okay.
No. We were very much a small team,
Yeah.
and frankly, the government is very big, and we were a small team.
Okay. Did anyone from your team ever present to this larger group? Or actually, strike that actually. When you say from our team, can you clarify what that means?
Myself, Nate Kavanaugh, Ethan Choutran, Marshall Wood, Jack Stein, Jonathan Mendelson.
And what was the purpose of that team or that group?
There's a long tail of independent agencies that don't report into a bureau level, and every agency needed a Doge lead, and our team was meant to be detailed onto every small agency
Okay.
to find optimization efforts, implement technology, streamline.
Did everyone on that team report to Steve and Josh like you did?
Yes.
Okay. So they were overseeing your team. Is that fair to say?
We reported back to them,
Okay.
but our team was focused again on the 150 small agencies.
Okay.
So our progress was just more of an update. They weren't pointing and saying go.
Okay. How did you determine, as a group, what agencies to work with?
There's a long list of, this is all publicly available, there's a long list of agencies and their spend, their annual spend and the congressional appropriated spend that do not report into a bureau level agency, as in they do not have a Doge lead yet. And so we went down the list by appropriation and onboarded to each one.
Okay. And how did you get a sense of that mission?
Executive order dropped that said every agency needed a Doge lead. Our team was focused on, again, the independents, because all the bureau level agencies already had Doge leads. So based on the executive order, our team onboarded to those agencies.
Okay. Who put the team together?
Nate, Josh, Stephen, Anthony.
How do you know that?
We were reporting into them. They seemed to be the leads.
Okay. Do you have an understanding about who was creating the directives and the priorities for your team to address?
Elon had made it clear that there was a number of small agencies that needed Doge leads.
Okay.
So him.
Okay. So Elon Musk, your understanding is that Elon Musk kind of created the idea for the work that your team was engaged in?
Based on the executive order.
Right, okay. Was he getting updates on your work?
Maybe. He's, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I know that he was getting updates on progress with contracts and grant terminations to see how much we were saving.
Yeah. And throughout this time that you were working with this team, did you have a group chat that all of you were in and communicating on?
Signal.
Okay. Did it ever leave Signal, these communications?
No.
Okay. And so, for instance, if you had to call Nate, you would call him via Signal?
Yes.
Okay. Same with like Ethan and Steve and Josh, everyone else? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Are they still there, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, so they can hear me. Okay. I think Jacob was the top text name.
Yeah.
Jacob, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, can you pull up tab 2? This will be exhibit 2. And this is document bait stamped US-00006151. Can you see that?
Could you zoom in a bit, Jacob? It's Jacob, right? Thank you.
Should be good. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. Take it in, and if you want to have them scroll so you can read anything, feel free to do that. You recognize this document?
It looks like I was on the email chain.
Do you recognize the document?
Yeah.
Okay. And this was that first email on March 10th, Monday, was sent, looks like exactly a week after you joined the government. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And so at this point, you had met Mr. Kavanaugh, right?
Yes.
Okay. And can you scroll up really quickly, Jacob? Great. So if we look at the top email, it says from Nate Kavanaugh to Ryan Leppard. It's CCing Ethan Chow-Tran and Justin Fox, which is you, right? If we scroll down to the first email, yeah, that one there. Yep. Okay. Did you receive this entire chain in the ordinary course of your work at GSA?
I don't remember.
Okay. Does it appear to be authentic?
Yeah, it
from
appears
the-
to be authentic.
Okay, great. So let me read the first email sent by Nate Kavanaugh to Ryan Leppard. It says, can you help draft 3 detail agreements for Ethan, Justin, and I for the below agencies? The first 4 are priorities, in parentheses, tomorrow, given an upcoming EO. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe what you understand this to? Well, strike that. Do you understand what Mr. Kavanaugh is saying here?
He's saying the first 4 agencies, we would like detail agreements for myself, him, and Ethan.
Okay. And detail agreements are what, in your understanding?
To be onboarded as pseudo employees under just contractual language that we are GSA employees who are now under the authority of whomever is countersigning on the agency's behalf.
Do you understand? Do you have an understanding for why the first 4 were priorities here?
Nate says, given an upcoming EO.
Okay. And do you have an understanding of how you knew that an upcoming EO was imminent?
Objection.
I didn't, Nate did.
Okay.
apparently.
Okay. So you didn't know that there was an upcoming EO upon receiving this email?
Upon receiving this email, I wasn't on the initial one. We were following EOs before this.
Okay.
The EO was to go to every agency.
Okay. To go to every...
Every small agency to be onboarded as a Doge lead.
Okay. Okay, and the first 4 agencies there are Institute of Museum and Library Services, National Endowment for the Humanities, National Endowment for the Arts, and the Minority Business Development Agency. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand that there was something about those 4 agencies that were specifically, that made them specifically attached to the upcoming EO that Nate references?
I'm just going to caution you to be aware of privilege concerns and not answer in a way that would reveal privilege discussions.
Okay. Could you quickly explain privilege to me again? Like
What? Okay, can we go off the record?
That's okay, yeah.
Sorry, this is
Time's 11:48 a.m. Includes media 2 off the record.